Sirius and Orion, our 2-in-1 Warframe that we're getting with our next patch, Jade Shadows Constellations, launching on June 17th, are looking actually ridiculous, and I mean that in the best way possible. Now obviously we don't know the damage numbers of the boys yet, but from first glance their playstyle is looking incredibly fun, so let's break down what they're going to do. First up, when you're playing them, you'll be playing both Sirius and Orion, weaving between the two frames through casting, and each are going to have their own mod loadouts and abilities. Let's start with their passive, which when you swap between the two frames via tap and hold casting their first three abilities, your next two ability casts will have 45% efficiency, and that also plays into their constellation gauge, that with each cast you'll fill up a star here, but you can only have 2 stars from each frame in a row. So using the colors, you can only have 2 red stars back to back, and then you'll need to swap to green stars by casting the other Warframe's abilities. And this plays into their fourth ability, which they share and we'll get to in a second. When you're using one of them, the other seems to operate just like a Spectre that appears to be invulnerable, casting abilities and using weapons, but we'll have to see if mods will be taken into account unlike normal Spectres. Let's start with Sirius. His first ability will throw at his Scythe, which has a high range and will deal heat damage to enemies it hits, will gather resources and presumably orbs as well, and then return to him. His second ability will put these stars around both him and Orion that will deal heat damage to enemies when you deal damage. Then we have his third ability, which puts down a fire ring that heals you while you're inside of it, gives damage resistance that increases the longer you're inside the circle, as well as resurrects an ally once per minute. Orion's first ability will throw down his Scythe that will deal more damage than Sirius's first, dealing slash damage, as well as removes enemies' armor. His second ability essentially gives him and what looks like also Sirius an on damage taken auto cast Saren's Molt that will attract enemies' attention and what appears to be an AoE when it expires, and it does have what seems to be a 4-second cooldown between activations, and if you know how strong manipulating enemy aggro is for survivability, this should make the boys incredibly durable. Next, Orion's third ability will summon a black hole that will float around the battlefield, sucking in enemies, dealing damage, and when the enemies die to it, and hopefully while affected by it, the black hole's damage and duration will be increased. Casting Sirius's first ability will allow you to pull the black hole towards you, and Orion's first ability will push it away, giving you some control over its movement. Now going back over the constellation gauge that I mentioned previously, their fourth ability will use these charges to cause the boys to fight each other like in the trailer, and every time they clash they'll do an AoE around their impact point, and you'll be able to direct their movement a bit during this to maximize your damage. You'll notice that the reticle has these 2 symbols here, which is telling you which button to press, left and right click on your mouse and keyboard, so I'm assuming triggers for controllers, and the more correct inputs will increase the clash's AoE damage and critical chance. Pablo also said that you don't need to fully fill the constellation gauge in order to activate their fourth, but because of that scaling damage and crit chance, you'll probably want to do that. They also seem to be invulnerable during the clashes, making this a bit of an iframe ability as well. I don't know about you all, but as a build crafter, this is basically both my dream and nightmare Warframe because of all the possible interactions and functions, so I can't wait to get my hands on them, but let me know what you think in the comments, and as always, sub for more tips and swing by my stream if you need any help.